It's time for another entry of the Fellowship of the Gnome. Welcome back to the channel, folks. So glad to see you. Glad to have you pull up a chair because today we're going to carve orcs. Orcs! Tell me these guys aren't fantastic, right? We're going to be focusing today on doing that orcish face and that the musculature that you see on these guys here, right? The chest and the arms. We're focusing on how to get arms like this guy right here to look defined and not look straight, and also how to get orcish ears and tusks and maybe put an earring on there if you want to. We're gonna do that kind of thing, and yeah, I'll show you how to do a little bit of painting at the end and a little bit of wax and oil. We can talk about that as well, so you can finish them however you want to. But that's what we're gonna work on today. So let's flip the camera around and we'll go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so we're carving orcs, and they're going to be on a 1" by 1" block, 4 inches long. And we're going to start this guy out. It's going to be a knife only carving. No other tools, just a knife, nothing but a knife. No ifs, ands, or buts. Got an eraser there just in case I want to redo any lines I'm going to put on here. I'm going to start by drawing from each corner here a straight line. And just get that in to help keep us in line as we're doing this. So like so. Now about a third of the way in, and draw a line here, and that's going to be the side of the head and or the beginning of the shoulders right there as well. So on the left and right side, because it's the front, so there's the right side, left side, or depending if you're looking at from this direction, it's the other direction. But and then along the back of the head, we're going to connect those two lines right here. And those are the only lines we'll be doing on the top of the head. Okay, so this part here is going to get removed, so is this part, and so is this part. This part here is going to be our head in the middle there. So from there, from that third mark, that's the side of our head coming straight down. That's the side of our head coming straight down. And we're going to come down. Let's see here. About how far is that? We're going to come down about 1 inch on the outside, about 1 inch. And then we're just going to 45-degree angle up to the side of the head here. We want to bring that shoulder down to about the 3/4 of an inch mark, which is about right here. So we're going to come down to there, and then we're going to go straight over to that 1 inch mark. So 1 inch down here, 3/4 of an inch there. This line here is in line with our line at the top. Okay, so coming down to 3/4 of an inch, and then going over to the 1 inch spot. That's our shoulders set in. Now, there are different variations here that I went with. As you can see, he's got regular legs. He's got his thumbs hooked on his belt for this guy here, which allows us to give him a little bit of pants and some fur boots and whatnot, which you can definitely do if you'd like to. I like this older guy here. He's got the same kind of thing going on that the Gnome Ranger does, right? With the war hammer rather than a sword, but it's the same style. It's the same body, so it's pretty simple and similar to what we've done already. This is the guy I'm going to try to do today. We're going to do this like hide pants with an axe. Put a little earring on his ear if you want to. I thought that was a really neat touch. But I'm going to do one without a beard. Without a beard, it's a little bit more difficult, I think. The beard is really easy. You're just making a big blocky thing, putting some teeth, and cutting away the upper half to relieve the teeth, so to speak. The beards are easy. I figure the face without the beard is probably a little more difficult. So we'll do that on this guy here. And maybe we'll give him, what do you say, we give him a sword in the front, kind of like the Gnome Ranger has, because we want to have a variety, right? We got an axe man, we got a hammer wielding guy. Yeah, I think we'll do a sword. So let's see. If we do a sword, we want that elbow to be somewhat even with this one. So that elbow is going to be about 2 inches down right here. We're going to come over to where our hand is going to be. Now the other hand is going to be over here hanging down. I like that hanging down kind of thing going on. And we'll have that come down to, same as this one, keep it in line. It's coming down to about the 2 7/8 mark, right there. 2 7/8 at the top is the bottom of the hand. The inside edge of the hand is in line with the side of the head. So just come in right on down and mark that line. And same thing here. Come right on down and you can mark that line for the inside of the arm right there. And then just coming on over for the hand that's going to be right here on top of our sword. Now our sword, we're going to come in about 1/4 of an inch and just draw a line straight down. And same thing the other side, kind of about 1/4 of an inch. And a line coming straight down. That's going to be our sword, coming straight down. If you want to have a bit more of a stylistic sword, widen that bottom one out. Rather than have it be a 1/4 inch in, have it be a 3/8 of an inch in the bottom and get a little bit wider, kind of stylistic style sword. It'd be pretty nice. So the side of the body is right here in line with the inside of the arm. So again, down here, you're just continuing that same depth on the side of the head to here, all the way down, okay? Same thing here, continuing that line all the way down. We're going to remove this section here. We're going to remove this section, and this section to start this carving, all right? So that's where we're at. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Wear your carving glove. I'm going to use this knife. This is my Lee Ferguson knife. I'm going to start moving on the side of the head right here. We're going to go in right here on this left shoulder and then up as we carve. In and out at the top. In, curving up, out at the top. And just like so, before you know it, we've got that shoulder set in. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. In on that shoulder, curving it up and out at the top. Nice and easy. No fuss, no muss. Check to see if you got it even. Is it looking pretty good so far? I think it's looking pretty good. I'll move these guys back because I like to get a little wild and crazy with my chips. Back of the head, we want to move up to that line we drew to connect those. So I'm going to just go ahead and start taking some wood off the back of the head here. Like so. And we've got the back of the head started pretty good right there. So that's a good start. Let's go ahead and move this wood right here underneath this hand. I'm going to do a stop cut right here. I'm going to rock that knife in, pushing down on it with my left thumb. I'm going to cut up to it. Again, stop cutting and cutting up to it. Like so. All right, now I'm going to paring cut this bottom section off right here in line with where we're going, right like so. So we made good progress there. We got that section moved. We're gonna move this section over here as well. So right here underneath the elbow, I'm gonna come in at an angle. Now I am straight on that plane, but I'm coming in at an angle, whatever angle that arm is, maybe it's a 45-degree angle or roundabout. We're gonna rock that knife in for our stop cut. We're gonna carve right up to it. I'm looking to do the same thing I did on the other side and just remove this wood straight in on this plane coming straight in. So right here, I want to have it straight in like so and remove all the way down. Straight in like so, moving all the way down. So we can start to do that in this direction here if we want to. Just like so. And covering up to the elbow as well. Stop cutting. That's really great progress. We're doing pretty good so far. Moving right along. Now, for the bottom of that hand right here, I'm going to put a stop cut right there. Okay? And I'm going to carve up to it because this sword isn't going to come to a point. So we're going to need to flatten out this sword in the front a bit. Like so. That's a good start to that. Now on top of this hand, we're going to put a stop cut in up here too to separate that arm out a little bit. And then for this elbow, let's go ahead and set that elbow in here. Right here, I'm coming in straight on this plane. So on this flat plane here, I'm coming in straight and I'm going to angle it up just slightly, okay? I'm going to dig the tip of the knife right into that elbow and I'm going to start to push that in and rock it back a little bit. You can see how I don't have that knife going in too deep along that bottom of the arm because the hand turns down here where that back of the blade ends, right? So I'm going to have that coming in here pretty close, but not past where that hand turns. And the same thing up here. I'm going to come in at an angle. I come straight in, and then I'm going to turn the knife just so, just slightly, to angle it in a little bit. And then I'm going to start to rock that in like that, getting it about yay deep right there. Okay? Pulling that knife out. Now I'm going to trace down from that point, following this knife tip all the way down to free that out. So I'm going to come in at a slight angle. Let me show you here before you do it. So make sure you watch closely. So you see, there's the angle I came in at, and that's how much we got out. And I was able to chip that out in one piece. And that's enough to set that elbow in and look pretty nice. If we do that in one cut, we don't get all those little hash marks right there that we might get if we did it in several cuts. So I went a little too deep there, and you can see the knife blade sunk into the arm there, but it's not going to be noticeable if that's the only cut we make to set this depth. If we make multiple cuts at that, if we make multiple cuts to set that depth, then we'll see those lines there and it won't look as good. So having one done is fantastic. So I'm going to do a little relief cut right there, and then I'm also going to carve down to it for that as well to free that up, free that hand up a little bit more in that area. So we're doing pretty good there. Now for this arm here, on this line here, that angle, that's the angle I'm coming in at. So I'm going to come in straight in line with the shoulder, and I'm going to draw straight down that line right through here, putting a little bit of a depth in there with a knife. And then I'm going to carve straight in on this angle here. Okay, I'm going to come in just at a bit less of a degree, like just about like so, and I'm going to scoop this all out here along that. And you can see that right here, just like so, just to set that in a bit. You need to clean something up when you're done too. Just go ahead and clean it up. So obviously this arm isn't going up as far as it should. We need to get that up a little bit farther. Get it up a little bit higher. Okay. So good progress. Is that arm going up too high? Nah, that's fine. That's good. That'll be all right. Okay. Let's see here. Where do we want to focus our efforts on? The back has got a big hump in it. We can go ahead and get rid of that hump right now. So let's go ahead and take a lot of that wood off right there. On down the back as well. We don't need all that stuff. Okay? That's looking a little bit better. Now we got a lot of these these saw marks on the carving still, okay? We're going to go ahead and want to remove those. We don't want to do that until we get rid of all of the pencil marks we've got on here. So let's set in first our sword. Once we got that set in, all our pencil marks will have been set in to what we need, and we can go ahead and start getting rid of all the saw marks on here, because the saw marks are going to take paint and stain differently, and you probably hear that in every video you see me do, unless it's your first video. And I never know what video is going to be someone's first video. So we're going to put this sword in by coming in straight on this front plane, coming in straight here to the left side and right side of that. I'm just going to sink that knife in, rock it in a little bit. It's like a long stop cut, okay? Just get a little bit of depth there. And you can see I got pretty good depth on that right there, okay? The same thing on the other side. Stop cut from top to bottom, and I'm just going to rock that knife blade in all along that distance, right like so, okay? Easy peasy. Now on the bottom of this arm, I'm going to do the same thing I did in the elbows, and I'm going to do just this angle here, but coming in straight, angle it in just a little bit, and then sink that tip in right there along the bottom edge of that arm and along the top of that sword. And now I can carve up to that arm to separate that out a bit. And I'm going to carve down along that sword to free everything up just a little bit. There we go. We got that side freed up. Now let's free up this other side. So we're going to carve the paring cut here. Swoop down and right along that section. That's doing pretty good right there. Now we can come in here too and try to relief cut the rest of that hand. I'm going to put a line in right here from the top of that hand all the way around that section there. And that's going to wind up being the top of that belt. Okay? So I just continue that section of the hand all the way around there like that. That'll be the top of that belt. We're going to free up that hand by doing a small relief cut. You notice I didn't take out the entirety of the depth there. I didn't go all the way down to meet this section here. I kept that out a little bit because I want to have a belt here going left to right. So I could put a bottom of a belt in right here, a little stop cut there, a little stop cut right there, and then carve from the center to the left, from the center to the right, and then again, just to free that up a little bit. So we got a little bit of a belt started, and we're doing pretty good at freeing this up, at freeing the orc from the wood. There we go. Okay, good progress so far. Now let's go ahead and start taking off these saw marks like I made mention. Those saw marks are not going to be our friend by the time we get to the end of this. So we might as well get rid of them now while it's easy to get rid of them. The more detail we get in on this guy, the harder it will be to remove those saw marks. And we don't want it to be difficult. Like so. And then this hand. And this last arm as well. Okay. That's pretty good progress. Everything's feeling smooth. We got the whole thing set. I don't see any issues whatsoever. Now, if you notice, one shoulder looks a little bit lower than this one. So we need to adjust this shoulder here. Come a little bit lower, like so. That's pretty even now. Okay. We want this guy to have a bare chest, kind of like this fella is here. We want those ribs to be showing, the abs. We want the arm muscles to be showing. We want to spend some time figuring out how to do that to make it look muscular, make him look right, because that's what we're learning on this one, right? With every one of these figures I'm going to do in this series, we'll be concentrating on something different in some way, right? And what I want to concentrate on here are the rippling muscles, because you can do these for an elf character or a human character and just paint it differently, you know? And so we're going to concentrate on those and the facial features to get this kind of look right with the earring and all that stuff. And we're going to be working on that. So the bottom half of this is going to be very similar to things we've done in the past. The top half is where we're going to be doing a lot of exploring. So with that said, just going to go around the carving real fast and smooth some things up. That I know might be issues later. Now for this guy, I want to have the arm set in and the belt set in before I start working on the chest and the head. So I'm going to set in these arms. I'm trying to put those lines in the same spot they are on the other side, just back here. And then that belt is going to come around like so. And go right up underneath that arm to continue around like that. So that's the belt we got, and we're going to do that. So let's set all this in. I'm going to come in straight on this angle. So this angle right here, the carving, I'm coming in straight for that arm right here and putting a little relief cut in there. And now I'm going to put a relief cut in on the top where that belt is going to be, right like so. and then carve down to that to release that right there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. Put a stop cut on the top of where that belt is going to be. Okay, and then the inside of that arm, sink that in. We're going to carve down to that belt like that. Now we're going to connect this in the middle here. Now we got a big kind of bulbous thing in the back going on right there. That doesn't look good. So what we're going to do is we're going to smooth that out from the top down. Much slower, more gradual slope that way, if you will. And that looks far better. You can see it looks like a more muscular back. A more muscular back is going to be wider at the top. That's where all the muscle is. And it's going to come down to those smaller sections coming into that waist. So let's go ahead and set in the bottom of this belt. Now I'm going to set in the rest of this arm by carving down like so. And I carve up to sink the belt in further past the arm. And then now we're going to carve the bottom of that belt like so. Right up to it. Okay, the same thing over here a little bit. Just going to relief cut the corner of that elbow, and then we're going to set in the bottom of this belt all the way around. Following that line, just stop cutting, pushing that knife in, rolling it in with the thumb, and I'm going to carve up to it all the way around like that. And that belt is set in rather easy. Now we're going to smooth out that slope on up to the belt. Now this is all so far very familiar to you from other carvings we've done. If you've done the other carvings in the Fellowship of the Gnome series, that Ranger is very similar to this so far. Like there's a lot of similarities here. I mean, it's just the same thing. It's just that from this point we start doing things a lot differently because we're not putting in a hood there and a big nose. We're going to go for some more detailed facial features to make him an orc. Okay, so we just got a big thick belt there. We can round that off later as we come into our own when we're doing all these muscles and this head. So what we're going to want to do is set in a big jaw and chin. And from right here, the middle point of this arc as it comes down, I'm just going to bring a line down here and try to recreate and replicate that same angle towards the other side. And that looks pretty even right there. So that's what we're looking for. About the midpoint of that swoop, bringing a line in, just at an angle right there, just down to there. Now, I'll give you a measurement here, that way everybody can feel comfortable if you need one. That is about 5/8 down on the outside. And in the middle, that is about a full inch down from the top to the bottom of that chin right there. And that's what we're looking for. And is that about the same? Yeah, it's about the same. So that's what we're looking to do here. Now, to set that in, I'm going to carve in at an angle coming down. Okay, let me get this where you can see it real well. About this angle right here coming down, and then I carve up to it as well. So right along that knife edge, right along that line edge, I carve down and in like so. And then I carve right up to it like that. That's how we're setting this in. Same thing from this direction here. Rocking that down and in, carving up to it. We're setting that in. Right along the side of the head as well. That's the beginnings of our head, the beginnings of what we're looking for. You can see like it's going to be very similar to what we've done on, or what I've done on other carvings here. Take a little bit off the front of that face. That's coming out a little too far. I took about 1/4 of an inch off the front to bring that in a bit. I want that chest to sit out a little bit past him. And I'm going to need to flatten that center part of the chest out as well a bit. That's getting there. Let's flatten out more of this chest. What I'm looking for is looking to create the illusion of a barrel chest. But I don't want the center to be poking out like it's a point, which is what we're doing when we're carving on a corner. So I'm trying to bring that chest in to flatten it out a little bit in the middle, but also bring that waist in underneath that chest. So the waist is in further than the chest is. That gives them that muscular look, because we got that wider section at the top here coming in, wider section here coming out a little bit before it comes in. So it's in a little bit further in at the top, a little bit wider by the time you get to the sternum, and then it goes in severely towards that middle of that waist. That's what we're looking for. That gives them that athletic, strong kind of look, you know. And yeah, that's what we're going for right there. All right. So to put in our ears, that's probably the section that we're at next. Let's take a look at that. That line right here is the line for the middle of our carving from point to point. Just in front of that line, I'm going to put a box coming down here, coming back behind that line, and then coming down. Okay? It's a small box. That box is about 1/4 of an inch wide, and it is about 3/8 of an inch tall to a 1/2 inch tall. They measured it. Yeah, it's almost a 1/2 inch tall. So 3/8 to a 1/2 inch tall, and you can adjust that on the fly however you want to, because these ears don't have to all be the same exact height and same exact width. I find it easier just to draw this box. And you can see it's almost centered on that line, that box is, and it's a little bit further down from the top. And we're going to do the same thing, same kind of box on this other side here. So same spot, draw that box. That box even, the box can go down a little bit more. It's pretty close. Pretty close. I like it. Do a little bit taller. Okay. Now, real quick, I'm going to round off these edges on the top of the head here. The front. And I'm going to paring cut these saw marks off the top away, because we no longer need any of these marks. We waited until now to remove them so that we could use them for those ears, to keep those ears relatively somewhat symmetrical from either side. So we did that, and we got that completed. Now, I am going to cut this box out. I want to sink in the wood around the box and quote unquote relieve the box. So I want this box to be higher than the wood around it. To do that, I'm going to draw a knife line down, coming from the very top, even past the top of that box, and down. And I'm only just putting the tip of the knife in. You see? Not too much. And I'm going to hold it here, pull it out. You can see I got that much depth right there. That's how much I'm going to try to remove. So I'm going to do the same thing along the bottom. Same depth. And then right along the top as well. Same depth. Now I'm going to carve up along the back, and moving just that section that we're looking for, okay? And down here in the back as well. Now for the top one, I drew that line incorrect. I need to come at an angle. I want this to be a pointed ear. So from this back corner, that's where I'm going to end at, and I'm going to come down, how much? Not much at all. 1/4 of an inch to the front to the back, okay? So you can see that cut there, 1/4 of an inch, and carve down to that. So that's what we got going on there. The same thing here at the bottom, the exact same angle, just repeating, okay? So I come up to that right there, I have this weird looking square now. There's a name for that, and I don't know the name. If you know the name, go ahead and put a comment down below to me. The name of that kind of square, Johnny, is this. Go back to middle school geometry, Johnny. That's fine. I know I'm missing it. Now I'm going to do the same thing on relieving this cut along the front. Okay. And so that box is going to be our ear. It's looking like a good box. It's a good shape. And this orc is going to have a blocky style head. I like this blocky style head that these guys have got. I think that they're they're rounded a little bit, but they look big. They look muscular, and that even in the head, I mean, they look just like a square jaw and big squarish head. They look beefy. They look like they're ready to rip some gnomes apart, right? So we're going to do that relief cut on one side of the head and the other side of the head. And I'm going to go ahead and right now carve that relief on up on this side. Same thing on the back side. All right, like so. And now before we get too far, I'm going to go ahead and do that cut right here in the front. And then carve right down to it. Same thing for the back. And relieve that. So I messed up on this ear. You can see, well, no, that's not too bad, but that ear is a little bit further back than the other ear. So I can try to fix this a little bit by shortening this ear over here on the back, and then shortening this ear over here on the front. And that will bring them closer to in line with one another. And that's fantastic. Now, this is where we get kind of funky because I'm going to relieve this ear a little bit, right? I want to have it be less thick on the bottom than the top, but I want it to be more thick in the back than the front. But I also want it to be more thick on this front. So I want these 3 points to maintain almost all of their depth here from the base of the wood. But this one, I'm going to lose a little bit. I want to lose about half of that depth, and I want to lose almost all of that depth. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve down from this point here, angling the knife just ever so slightly inward, and I'm going to try to relieve this ear just a bit. It's easier to show you sometimes than to tell you. Okay, so you can see now that ear is pretty close to the base right here on the bottom. This point is slightly higher. However, this point and this point still have all of their depth that they had originally. So the same thing I'm going to do over here, okay? I'm going to carve down, just kind of trying to take off towards that bottom corner right there, like that, okay? Now, right here from the corner of that ear, I'm going to do a little relief cut right like this and like that, and take that triangle out. So what am I doing there? That's the jaw line. From the bottom of that ear, from that base of that ear, that's the jaw line. I'm going to do the same thing here, coming down, down, and take that triangle out. That's the back of the jaw line that we're beginning to form. I want that to be a little more defined than we had without that cut. So that's why I did that cut there. Just going to round in a little bit along this back side. That's the back of the neck, right? And from the shoulders here, we're going to curve in and up just a bit around here. And then round off these hard lines along the top of the head. That's doing pretty good. You see? Got those shoulders set in. Looks like a muscular back now. Rounded that in. I'm liking that. Let me grab my brush. Okay, that's good progress. I'm enjoying that. I'm liking the way that's coming out. Now, to do the rest of the ear, we're going to do a relief cut right here. Put a little depth in right so. I'm going to do the same thing coming down. And now I'm going to relieve by cutting up and in ever so slightly, very gently, like so. Stop, cut it out if you need to. Okay. And you're going to have a nice, simple little ear. There's nothing too defined about it. It doesn't need to be too defined. Okay. So, little relief cut along the top, little cut along the bottom. Then from that bottom, we're carving up and in. Just that little corner there. You do the same thing in the bottom corner too if you want to. Put a little relief cut right like so. And carve right down to it. And then you get that kind of thing going on for the ear. And that's a good looking little ear. If you want to get really detailed, you can try to put a little triangle cut like that. Okay? And carve down to it. That's a much more complicated thing to do. Like that, right there. And get that little nub that you might see on people's ears, right? So that's what you can do if you want to. You can just do it as simple as that one right there, which is just fine. Most people won't notice if you do one or the other. Most people won't be paying that much attention. So, all right, now for our nose, you can see that for all of these guys, I don't have much of a forehead going on here, right? It's a pretty far forward forehead, and I like that look for these orcs because they're not quite human. You know what I'm saying? And they see I see this funky nose, like it's kind of bent and crooked as all get out. I really love that nose. I like having noses like that. So for this guy, his nose is about right there. And we can do the same general spot for our nose. And we're going to come straight in and we're going to rock that knife back and forth like that. Then we're just going to carve right up to it. In and up. We got all that stuff there we can just chip out. And now we got a good nose formed for where we're going to put it. Okay? Now, that's way too bulbous in the front right there for a head. So we're going to carve that up and out a bit. Kind of a 3/4 plane, a little bit in the middle, and a little bit in the left, a little bit in the right. You see we started to make that look more like a head, right? See what we're doing there? Now, on either side of this thing, we need to set in some nostrils. And so what we're going to do to set some nostrils in is I'm going to come in not just straight. I'm going to turn the knife just slightly back like this and put a relief cut in right there. Same thing, just reversed on the other side. Okay? A little bit of relief cut like so. That's going to be the top of the nostrils. And now we're going to come in from the outside edge, and I'm going to have a brow line. Now I could come straight in. He's got a more serious expression. If I come down like this, he'll look a little bit sadder. If I go up, he'll look more fierce. Okay? So let's just go kind of a medium point, like so. And then I'm going to connect those two lines with a relief cut, like that. Now I'm going to try to come in and up. So in, along that, and up to there to relieve all of that from there. Okay? We're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Now remember, the more further up we go with that line, the more severe and angry he looks. The further down, more sad, more depressed if you want to, or, you know, maybe a little scared or frightened. It can change the look of this guy. But we're going to try to mimic the same angle we had on the other side, which is about like that. Do that relief cut like so. Now let's see if we can carve this out in the same way, nice and gentle, like that, right there. And that's looking really good. Looking really good. Now, we're not carving really fancy eyes. We're just going to give the illusion of eyes. When I was doing some of you may know I did that class recently, the Renegade Woodcarvers Roundup, and I got the chance to teach with, or to learn with Mitch Cartledge. Mitch Cartledge's a great teacher. If you get a chance to take a class with him, you should do so. Mitch said that You don't need to carve really detailed eyes. You just need to give the illusion of eyes. If someone looks at a carving and says, "Oh, those are his eyes," then you win. You've done everything you need to do to elicit what you're looking to elicit. So for this, we're not going to go real detail. We're just going to put some shadowed indentions. So along that brow line, I'm going to put another cut in, and I'm going to deepen it right there at that tip, right? That tip is really sunk in there. I'm going to do the same thing on this inside edge and really sink that knife in without touching that nose line. And then a 1/4 of an inch down, I'm going to try to just take out a swooping kind of cut to put a shadow there. Look how much more shadow is there now than is on the other side, right? You can see that triangle cutout, and it's just enough to create that shadow. That's our eye. Just that shadow, that illusion of an eye. And for a figure like this, it works really well. It's just a little triangle is all it is pulling out of there, right? Just that little triangle right there. That's all I'm pulling out. Nothing big. But it's enough that you get those little triangular style eyes, and they work really well. Now these hard corners here, I'm going to round those a little bit, like so, right? If you need to afterwards, bring that brow line around the outside edge. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and elongate that brow line. Bring it around more, okay? Because our faces are round. They're not squared off. And even if he's not human, he's going to be a little rounded off. It's not going to be square and brutish everywhere. Now, I'm going to put little hash marks along that brow line. Just tiny little V cuts, and that's going to give the illusion of a brow. Even if you just do 2 of them. It's enough. Like, okay, that's the eyebrow right there, you know? And I think 3 is good. 2 is the minimum. I'd say 3 for the size would probably be the maximum. But those 2 on each side, that works pretty well. And you can see some of these guys, like this guy here, he's got 4. He's got 4 on each side. That's hard to do. This guy's got 4 on each side. And this guy's got 3 on each side. 3 on one side, 2 on the other side. I kind of like that look a little bit better, I think. They're a little bit bigger ones that way, but however you want to do it. Now, from your nostril, you have lines that come down your face, right? They come down like so. We're going to do those smile lines that come down in this guy from that nostril, like here, like this, and like this. Then on those smile lines, we're going to carve up to the other side of the nose and carve that out. Up to the other side of the nose and carve that out. That sets in the mouth area a little bit in past those smile lines, right? And if you need to round some things out, take the time, round the things out that you need to round out. Now, for the mouth itself, we're going to have the mouth, the bottom jaw, out farther than the top jaw, and the teeth can come up out of the bottom jaw. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line, and then we would relieve the upper lip and leave the lower lip alone. But we're going to relieve around a tooth that's going to come out of here. So I'm going to draw it on here so you can see what we're talking about. So let's say we got a mouth coming across like this, okay? And if you bring the outside edges down further, he looks a little more severe. You bring him up, he looks a little bit happier. But on either side there, you can also put a big tooth. So we can just do 1 tooth like that right there, right? So that would mean we need to remove wood here and here along that line. We need to define that line and define it all the way across and around that tooth. So to do that, I'm going to put that line in here, and I'm going to stop, cut down to it just slightly, okay? We're not removing all that wood in there. Just enough to define that line. Okay? So it's not as difficult as you might think it is. So we define that line just that easy. And now we need to define where that tooth is. So cut on either side. of that tooth. One side's done, and the other side's done. That tooth is defined. It doesn't take a lot to do that. Right, like so. So we got the tooth defined. Now, this nose is way too pretty. It's way too uniform, even if we round off those edges. So what we're going to do, we can put some relief cuts in, right like so, on the sides where the nostrils meet the bridge of the nose. That gives a little more character. We can also put a notch in on the side of it, right in the middle, right there. And now look, he's got a crooked looking nose. He's looking more funky. He's looking kind of fearsome, right? Let's set in this jaw a bit more. Coming underneath. There we go. Yeah, that jaw comes out a little bit too far. Yeah, that's looking neat. Now what we can do too is put a little notch here underneath the mouth. And that's just defining the chin with that little notch there, okay? And we're going to do a little bit in the outside edge as well. A little bit coming up underneath there, like this. So we need to kind of define the depth of that chin. Now what I'm doing there is like this guy right here. See what I'm talking about with the depth of that chin? These little notches right here underneath that bottom lip. They help you define that bottom lip and just kind of roll that chin around to give you more space. So this guy here has a bigger jaw. You can see it's wider. This guy's a little bit thinner there, you know. Now to define that mouth and those cheek structures a little bit more, right? We can just take little V cuts out right here on the side of the face. It's going to make him more angular, more gaunt, to bring that face in just a bit. And it sets those cheeks out as well right there. And you can bring that around a bit more if you want to. Right, like so. That's a good look for him. Okay. And now he's got a lot of personality, that orc. He looks ugly. He looks ugly in all the right ways. I really think so. Take those hard edges off that nose. Okay, now let's look at defining the musculature of this chest and these arms and the whole kit and caboodle here, huh? Because what we want to do is we want to define a bicep here. So I'm going to take a little notch out here and here, as you can see on this guy right there, right? We're going to take out a little bit of relief cut, the back of the arm there, back of the tricep here. We're going to find those lats right there. All this just on the arms, right? Just on the arms. Let's go ahead and start that. So I'm going to put a little bit of a V notch right here. Okay? Same thing, and then V notch right there. So we did a little triangle cut right there in the back of the arms. I can do the same thing over here. Coming in, triangle cut right there. Right? And that brings that arm in as it gets to the top there. Right? For the bottom of this arm on the left side, I'm going to bring that arm in like so. I'm just going to start to put a little more movement to this arm here. And right in the middle, bring in that elbow. Okay? That brings more movement. So the arm comes down and around now a little bit where it didn't before. I'm going to take this hard edge off like so. Now our traps or our shoulder muscles are going to be right here. I'm going to do little V cuts. Long little V cuts. to define those shoulders like that, right? Looking pretty good. Now along the back of the tricep, we'll do the same thing. Little line right there to find where that tricep is. Okay? We're going to bring it in right here for the top of that bicep. You see that arm is starting to look muscular, isn't it? Starting to come along. Take out that excess right there. Okay, now we're going to repeat some things over here on the other side, the top of the bicep. Okay, the lat, both sides. And the bottom of the bicep, and the elbow there, that crook, and the back of the tricep. Take off that hard edge. Okay. Okay, so we got that arm defined fairly well, a lot more. You can see we do the same thing on the other side there, okay? I'm going to round off those hard edges, fix those up a little bit. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Now, we know we already defined that chest a little bit. We flattened it out some, right? Well, let's go ahead and look at setting our chest muscles in, because it's going to come from under there, up in the middle a little bit, like so. The chest muscles are going to connect to that armpit right there. And the armpit on this side here is a little bit too low. So let's bring that up a little bit to make it even with the other side. Okay, so those chest muscles are going to come right up into there. Okay, and all we're going to do along that is little V cuts to define that. All the way around there, like so. We got that chest defined just enough. Defining up to that chest too. So I'm relieving stuff in the bottom, not removing stuff on top of the chest. Just everything beneath it, I'm making sure is under that chest, lower than that chest. You follow? Now we're going to do a V cut right down the middle here. From that point, barely using the tip of the knife. Same thing on this side. Barely using the tip. Carve that out. That's a pretty deep V cut. I'm going to round off those hard edges here on that, on each side. Now we're going to do two V cuts. One across the middle of the top, one across the middle of the bottom. So we're going to kind of do this number here. And this number here. And now we're going to elongate those lines. Across there. Across there. And now we got some abs. Huh? Starting to come along. And they look like the abs on Julbo, or whatever his name is, from Morrowind. He kind of looks like a dark elf from Morrowind, doesn't he? Yeah, from the Elder Scrolls. If you're familiar with that video game, he's starting to have that look. But I do like how he's turning out. Okay. We need to find that hand here. And that hand is going to be gripping this. So we have fingers here, here, here. On top, we're going to have that thumb, like so. We can take a little bit out on the outside edge. I'm going to take a little relief cut there and there to define this hand a bit. hand is wider than the forearm. Okay, take a look at my forearm. So if I'm gripping this, I'm going to have the bottom of my hand coming out and down. That's kind of like what's going on here. His hand's coming out and down a bit as he's holding on to it. So he's from our direction, he's sitting down and out with it like that. So we need to make sure that we're getting that somewhat in line with how we're thinking the hand's going to go. So V cuts here, these fingers. We're not doing complicated fingers. Just little V cuts to give the illusion of fingers, right? That's right here. We're only doing this section of the fingers. The rest of the fingers are wrapped around the back of the sword. So they're wrapped around that thing, kind of like this right here. And the part of the fingers that are showing, this part of the hand here is showing right here. And this part of the fingers are showing because it's wrapped around that, like so. So that's what we're looking to display right there. That's it. That's all we're displaying. Alrighty. What else can I do to relieve that arm or make that arm look more muscular? I can bring that down. Now while we're here, let's go ahead and round off the top and bottom edges of that belt. That belt is big and bulbous and just way too thick. Let's start fixing it. Like so. Okay. Now I like the way he's turning out. I think he's turning out pretty well. We got a good hide bottom. We need to define this left hand here. And so that left hand is going to be like so, with the thumb in the front, like this right here. And then the knuckles, just like that, are going to be showing. Okay. So we need to define where the arm's going to stop. Okay. Because that hand's going to be coming out right here along that hand. So that's what we're doing right there. We're bringing that hand, bring this in, have that hand come out a bit. Okay. That thumb is going to be coming down. So we're going to leave like so around that thumb as it comes out the front. And then we're going to do some relief cuts here like this, showing that forearm coming down to the hand. So we should do on the other hand too, so we're going to do that as well. Okay. The same thing over here. All right, now on this back here, I'm going to do a relief cut or a V cut right in the middle. That's that middle section of fingers. And another one over here. And another one over here. And again, I'm not looking at being crazy, highly detailed. It's not like a big caricature, right? They're just little lines to give the illusion of what we're trying to do here. That thumb is too long. Like so. Like so. And I think that turned out pretty well. Spend a little time cleaning up your carving, looking around, thinking, what can I do to clean this up, make this look a little better? And then take your time to do that. You see these lines don't continue all the way around. Go ahead and fix them. Okay? Like so, we put some good movement into that arm there, if you notice that. It really looks pretty good. This elbow, you can kind of continue that around a bit more if you want to make that look a little bit better. Same thing for this one. We can bring the folds of that skin a bit deeper like that right there, and that'll look a little bit better, you know. We can bring the underside of that arm in a little bit. Oh, we didn't do the sword the rest of the way. So we need to sharpen the sword and carve down one side of it like so, down the other side of it like so, creating a point like that right there. Okay, we get the end down here. I'm just going to 45 it. Do the same thing to the other side, like that. And now we're sharpen that tip, like that. And we got a sharp sword, right? If you've got a gouge and you want to add a little bit more detail to the sword, let's say I've got number 9 here, right? Number 9 would be a good tool for that if you wanted to. You could put a little chamfer up this center of it, and those are something you see in a lot of swords. If you want to, you could do that just like this right here, all the way up to the top, and then relief cut right like that. That's if you have a number 9. If not, this is all knife only. Don't worry about it. That's just a fun little thing you could do, but you don't have to do. I like showing those things for when you got the extra tools. I do some more advanced videos on the channel too, so you can learn how to use all the other tools that might be available to you. They're fun to watch and they're interesting to learn from. So if you get that opportunity, definitely do that, because you might find you enjoy it, and you might find you want to try to get some more tools to do some more interesting things. Okay, I think I like the way that arm is going. This chest is looking good. What else could we do? We could add an earring onto this ear, right? Because we got that earring on this guy right here on that side, and that's actually really easy to do. It's not difficult. So we're going to look at doing it to this ear right here. All I did to add that earring was I do a stop cut and carve it to it, a stop cut and carve it to it, like that. Okay, it's as simple a thing. There's a little square now that's a little bit pushed out a little bit farther. Just put a little dab of gold paint on there, and you have got an earring, right? It is nothing crazy. I mean, seriously, look at that, and you'll notice it is exactly that. I did a stop cut, carved to it, stop cut, carved to it, and that's it. All that little earring is, just like that one right there. Okay. So now I'm going to go wash him up real fast. Soap and water in the sink for 2 to 3 minutes. I'll show you what he looks like when he's done. And then, yeah, we'll go over the painting. For this particular figure, I am going to do dark walnut Danish oil and wax on him, so that way you can see the difference between dark walnut Danish oil and the painted figures we have. I'll also go over real quick painting, how I painted these, and mostly like how did I get the skin tone the way that I did, because 2 colors green, 1 a base, then 1 a dry brush. We'll go over that in just a minute. First, let me go ahead and get this guy washed up and show you what he looks like after 2 to 3 minutes of washing. Okay, and there he is, all washed up. Okay, and you can see that really heals. You can see the soap bubbles coming out the top of it. If you ever said, man, Johnny, you're not using soap on that, I don't believe you. You can see it right there, huh? Anyway, it really heals a carving and makes it look absolutely fantastic when you wash him afterwards. So if you're ever wondering whether or not you should wash, my recommendation is definitely wash him up. He'll look a lot better once you get him finished up. And yeah, I think he turned out fantastic. Use these tools here, and you can do these muscular kind of fellas with their shirts off. That you can do barbarians, you can do all kind of things. But today we need orcs, right? Orcs to go along with the Fellowship of the Gnome, because you know what? The dragon we had wasn't a good enough bad guy. He looked like a big dopey dog. So obviously he's in the good guy's side. These orcs can be our bad guys. They can be the bad guys that our Fellowship of the Gnome is fighting. So there's a far better enemy for the Fellowship of the Gnome. Orcs! Orcs! There we go. The thing that sets these guys apart in regards to painting is that skin tone. And for that, I used a Hauser dark green, and then I used a desert cactus dry brushed across the top of it. Now, for the dark green, I used the paint and I water it down on the carving itself. So I'll dip it into the paint and then go straight to the water and use the water to to smooth it out and to thin it out on the carving and move it around. Skin is naturally blotchy. It's not going to be completely even. You want to get it close to even, but it's okay if it's not completely even. For things to dry for the bird, so I always use a hair dryer to speed things up. Now, when it comes to dry brushing, lighter colors should always go on top of darker colors. So I'm using this desert cactus to go over the top of this after they're completely dry. Take a mop style brush, and you can use any brush, it doesn't have to be a mop style. Mop style is just easier for me. And then get it full of paint and wipe it off till it's almost not coming off. I mean, I still have a lot coming off, you can see right here. And then you go right to the carving and then just brush across the surface, not trying to get a completely uniform brushing, but enough to pick up all those highlights as you see here. And you'll create this neat effect of various skin tone shades across the whole carving. And it really turns out absolutely fantastic. And that's the key to, I think, getting this guy looking right like an orc. For the rest of the carving, it's all solid colors, solid white for the teeth, browns, grays for the axe and whatnot, and nothing else complicated. All right, and there we have it, folks. We've got them all finished up, and they're looking absolutely fantastic. This is the guy we carved. Oh, sorry, this is the guy we carved today, and he turned out really wonderful. I really like how he turned out, and yeah, so that completes the orcs for our Fellowship of the Gnome, and there will be more entries. I'm going to get to some. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but we'll figure that out and we'll get some more done. Outside of that, thank you so much for watching the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Hey, head over to Instagram, Facebook. Give me a like and a follow over there. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to as well, I've got stickers back in stock over on the website. So head over there, johnnythelayton.com, and check it out. If you want some cool, like, wood carving related stickers that you can put on your toolbox or on your tool tote or in your garage or shop or whatever. Other than that, I really appreciate your time. You guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.